Hello, everyone, and welcome to another chat with myself and Herbert. We're having conversations about relationships and all kinds of fun little avenues we'll venture into. This is predicated on the idea that we are social beings that fall in love and have this attraction to other people. Also comes because we're reading from the Song of Solomon book in the Bible, and we also have a sermon series that's based from the content there. It's a short book, and so we're reading through the chapters, and it's an ancient book and it's poetry, so it's kind of dicey, and you don't always understand what it's all about. And honestly, if I've read it many times, and I wouldn't make myself out to be a scholar of this book, but I sometimes struggle to know what's happening there. Um, Even when I look at some of the commentary that scholars give around this book, is people don't know. They don't always agree on where who speaks when. And but apart from all of that, what we do see is we do see this common trend of how God expects for relationships to be. And we can extrapolate from that there's a man, there's a woman, they are attracted to one another, they want to make a life with one another, they want to live with one another, they actually want to commit to one another. Within that, there's a sexuality, I guess, in one way. There's a commitment, there's a covenant, there are all of these big words. And that's kind of what we're going to keep on venturing into today, specifically looking at before you are married. And so, as I said, with me, Evert, lekker to be here.
It is like to me.
Evert, you are recently married. And so I want you to try and remember how it was before marriage. For I almost want to say forget Annelies now. Think about a young man, Evert Klein Hans, and how what was your worldview concerning relationships and how you saw all of this was happening in your mind? Were you like, okay, I'm gonna get married one day, don't
Okay,
worry about
iets
it, or
belangrik wat
was
ons
it
weer
kind of
oor
like,
begin.
hey, listen, I need to do
Nee,
this
ons
right
ek sal
now.
die
If I'm
audio
not doing
gebruik
it
van die kamera.
correctly, everything's gonna fall apart.
Dit het nie
Um,
kom aan.
uh, Tell us just a little bit about who you were
Ja.
before you were married,
Jy mens moet soos kies
and
wat se
and
channels.
and we'll
okay.
venture into some of that.
Ja. Before I was married, relationships, that's a cool question. I can remember the first time when I, have that infatuation, the feeling of, this person, I want to maybe pursue something. I was in grade 7, 8, something like that. And I remember it was not healthy. The way that I thought was filled with pornography. So
Sure.
the way that we talked, the way that we engaged wasn't necessarily like, hey, I want to just go walk on a mountain, or it was more like explicit things. And it's because that's what we did. We had Mix It. And Mix It back in the day was like almost like WhatsApp, but just more evil. I don't know how to put it. We did there's two things that we did on Mix It. Okay, the one was we played a game called Moonbase. Now Moonbase.
Skerm met afgegaan, excuse.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, fine. So one thing we played is called Moonbase. Now Moonbase was this game where you basically had like your base and you had to build it, and you got moolah. On Mixit was like the currency was called moolah, and sometimes you used moolah to purchase stuff. Now what you could do is you could use your airtime to buy moolah,
Come on.
but also you can use moolah to buy pornography, and to also you get caught up in like these chat groups and also stuff that's happening. And I think when I think back, obviously, like you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're getting yourself into all that stuff, which is quite weird if you think about it. If I think about it now, it's super weird. But I didn't have the, how can I say, the courage. Eventually, we watched the movie, and I remember she wanted me to kiss her on that day or on that night, but I didn't have the courage to make a move, and then from there, nothing happened, which I'm grateful for. But from there, I never really looked at the concept of relationships. I think the whole thing was always very sexualized in the sense of male and female, if I can put it like that.
Because you do have friends
Yeah.
and people that you have relationships with, and you've got teachers, but there's a specific thing, there's a specific attraction, there's something.
Yeah. So that feeling and everything, all those stuff were always connected to, I won't call it sex, but like perversion and things like that, because of movies and because of having a smartphone. I don't know how to put it. So I think it changed more when it came to, we went to youth always, and that were some of the topics people spoke about. It was all about, I can't remember.
You mean church now? Youth church?
In church and stuff. So you get more, how can I say it? The things you believed was more based on how the culture was, not necessarily what was said from the front. So that is the way we looked at things then.
Yeah.
When it came to relationships and stuff like that. But there were a few things that I did knew that my dad and my mom really engraved in me, and that is never to have sex before marriage. And that just stick. Like, that is something that's always been, I think, a high value for me.
Yeah. Sex is disgusting, gross and vile, and so keep it for the one you love.
It was my granddad. He was a pastor, so it was more focused on like, this is sin. You can't do this. And it, like there's some sin where it's like, it's sin, but it's okay, and then there's some sin that takes you straight to hell.
Yeah.
I felt like that was one of the, that was the way it was presented.
Yeah. Which obviously forces the sin down into secrecy, because it's not because you stop the sin. As a young child, there are things that you stop doing because it's not, don't steal a car. Okay, I won't steal a car, but I will steal this DVD. You wouldn't steal a DVD, would you? You wouldn't steal you remember that? You wouldn't steal a car, and then you do a pirate movie or something.
That's when you like fall asleep after the movie, and then that pirate,
yes,
ad comes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, but what happens, especially with the sexual, is because it's so, it's tattooed on our DNA, that when you make it a sin, then it is forced into secrecy. But that's the truth even for young men that are married, right? Young men don't stop, because it's part of, it's tattooed on your heart. It's part of who you are. And so if you vilify it without giving people an out, or without giving people a way to, or without actually coming to the truth and coming to what God wants, and everyone's just afraid of God and they just don't want to sin, they force it into secrecy, which is why Mixit is such a appropriate place to find it, because no one knows. It's just you. It's like pornography in general. No one, I can't say no one, but I mean, you don't do porn with your friends. Right? It's like that's a weird concept. We all sit around and watch porn. It's something that it's almost like a secret, secret thing. How do we deal with that? I mean, you would think that you could deal with the sexual side by just getting married. You know, like
Yeah.
Paul even has
Yeah,
the advice. Just if you're burning with love or you're burning with sexual desire, just get married.
yeah.
And in one sense, I think that is great advice. Listen, for the record, I think it's great advice. If you want to get married, get married. Don't worry about it. Get married. Man, I married my wife at 23. I should have married her earlier. That's one of my great regrets is I met her at 18. I took too long. I should have just married her. It was a tough time between 18 and 23. We had many ups and downs, but the long and the short is my married life at 23 was the same as my life at 18, bar the sex. We did not have sex, but it was a tough time. I wasn't more mature or less mature. And listen, I'm not making a commentary on maturity. Sure, people mature. Fair. I should have married my wife earlier. I made it unnecessarily hard when we didn't. And so I would always tell anybody, if you want to get married. Man, get married. Because you're not getting married because you are ready to... You get married when you're ready to choose that person forever. It's not this magic day where you are now mature enough for marriage. Are you mature enough to stick to your decisions? I'm deciding this person, rest of my life, boom, get in there, get married. That being said, I remember what it was like before marriage. And I was one of those guys that I said, if I get married, then suddenly the sexual sin will disappear. When I get married, I'm obviously getting sex, so why would I? No more sexual. All of the sexual sin will come to light. No, it didn't happen. Didn't happen because there's this inner drive that it's not the mechanism of sex that men crave. It's more than that. And I say men just because that's my perspective.
Yeah.
But truly, that must be the perspective of women as well. There's something behind the scenes that's happening.
Yeah. So what happened later on is relationships became a cultural thing. So, like in high school, you go into a relationship because that's what people do, So that would be my first, long relationship.
Would you say, just to barge in there, but would you
Yeah.
say it's normal to have relationships when you're young, when you're in school? Is that a normal thing? Like girlfriend, boyfriend.
I don't know. I really don't know, because when you're in school, I feel like it's, you don't really think. I don't know. There are people that are like married from, like, they were in high school, they went out, girlfriend, boyfriend, and then eventually they got married. That does happen. But for me personally, I feel like when you study, when you get into university, like the person that you are at 26 and the person that you are at 20 or 18 is like two different people. The foundation might be very similar, but what you do, the things that you like, the people that you hang out with, those things change completely.
That's true.
Someone told me, like, study for a year before you, because that first year things change completely when you're out of school. So I think that's my comment on it is, like, if you really want to, go for it. I don't know. But for me personally, like, when you get married one day, it's going to be friendship more than anything else. So that should get the bigger, how do I say, priority. for me personally, I don't know what other people think. But those I went out with someone. I think it was 2 years. After that, my perspective on marriage, like in that time, changed completely. All relationships. There's a great series that you can listen to on Tim Keller on marriage. So, because they repost his sermons every year.
Mm.
And one of the series they did is the meaning of marriage. And that changed my perspective completely. Just that's the way the concept of marriage is friendship came. I learned it there by listening to his sermons. And just how there's not just sexuality or sex and that stuff, but friendship is so much more valuable in your marriage.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think that is something that I did not look at life like that. For me, it's I didn't study necessarily at a campus, and I'm very grateful for that. I think if I did that, I would have did stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Like when it comes to relationships. So I think that helped a lot. But I think if you are someone that is studying, maybe you're a first year, second year, third year, that space you feel like this is the person. Like my previous relationship, I felt like this is the person. But there were so many like issues and stuff happening. And it's almost like if you try and convince yourself that you need to marry this person, I feel like then you need to realize maybe the chemistry is not working. And that it is okay not to marry that person. It really is okay. Because if it's the foundation is constantly about you are doing this wrong and I'm doing this wrong, or you're not giving me what I need, or I'm not giving what you need, type of thing. I feel like maybe there's deep foundational things that just needs to change. So I think that was my perspective before I got married. It started very evil, and I feel like God has really redeemed it before I got married, which I'm very grateful for.
What advice would you give to someone that's a bit later in their life, and they are unmarried, but they are fully willing to get married, or they're actually wanting to get married?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is what comes to mind is the first thing you do when you get into a relationship is you exclude yourself from the rest of the world. It's you and that person, no one else. You spend time a lot together. There's the time that you start spending with your friends or other people, much, much less. There's space for that, but I think the first thing that I think of that you need to do is include people into your life apart from that person. What I mean by that is friends, mentors, people that have input in your life that can guide you through the decisions you make. So let's say, yes, I want to marry this person. Then number 1, 2, 3, and 5 is agreeing with you, bro. You must make a move. That's what happened with me. I knew Donovan, everyone at church. Okay, when are you going to ask? When are you going to do this? Like, that is a good sign. That is like, it frustrated me because I knew like what needs to happen. Well, in my own eyes, yes. I knew what I need to do and how long I need to wait and stuff like that. But that is a good sign that says, this woman or this guy, go for it. But if
So have a
someone,
community. That's what you're saying.
yes,
Having a
yeah, and I think that is a good thing. People need to, because in the end, you know, when you get married, we always think we're marrying the best side of someone. In your head, you don't think like that, but in your head, you are romanticizing this thing where it's like, I'm gonna marry this person because they're so amazing. But you don't think, yeah, I'm marrying this person because they fart the whole time, or they like burp in your face, or they can't make food, or
That's worse.
you know, that's not the reason why we get married. But that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get that person that farts the whole time, or that does something you do not like. And that's where when you make that decision, where you say, "But I'm saying yes for that as well."
Mm.
Yeah, so I think community, I would say, is a big thing. People make dumb decisions because they are lone rangers, and people become lone rangers because they feel like, I'm the only one in this world with this problem, you know, or they do prideful to seek help, seek, yeah. So I think that is something that comes to mind. Have community. Do something like a premarital. That is like, you must do that. Know what is God's expectation. Know what is, it's not just expectation, but how did God design marriage to be? You know, that is literally my sermon at when I preach at a wedding. My sermon is, who created the marriage? Because if you think about it, all humans in this world, across cultures, get married. That is a weird thing. Like, who told this tribe or this race or that culture that you should get married? Who told them that? You know, it's almost like God has embedded in our lives that that's what we do. So the question is, who created marriage? If God created marriage, isn't He the one that defines how it should be? Let's look at it. That is what premarital is all about. How did God design marriage? And from those who already got married, tell me, how is it going? What is the things that I can physically expect? Because I'm also a physical person. God created us on earth, not in the spirit realm. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on earth. So yeah, I think that is just stuff that is coming to mind. And also, the third thing is, it's easy to tolerate things that you know you shouldn't tolerate. And as soon as you tolerate sin and you tolerate things that are not, you know, this is not good, you know what happens? You compromise. You compromise on your relationship with God. You compromise with the people around you. And I think that is a massive thing, especially if you are studying or you are in school. Like, you just want to have sex. You know, you said it our last episode. Like, Satan wants to get you in her pants. When you get married, he wants to get you out of her pants. Like, when you're not married, the emotions are like high. You just want to, you know. But when you are married, it's like you have to work at it. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to initiate this. Yeah. That is like, I think that is my advice. Well, yeah.
What do you think? If there's people listening that are not yet in a relationship, what kind of person or people should they be? What are the things that a wise Christian will practice before they are married?
What are the repent? No, just joking. Yeah, that is a very interesting.
So you gave a couple of
Yeah.
you gave a couple of things. You said they have to be in a community of people, so that's important. Have a community
Yeah.
of people around you. You said some other things. Watch out for premarital sex. Watch out for stepping over the line. That's just a general rule. There's more that we can say about that, but we won't. There are things that you said about. You talked about parents being involved. You talked about you first need to find a friend before you find a sexual partner. A couple of nuggets of wisdom you were sharing.
Mm.
Question's quite broad, but what kind of person do you need to be before you're married to help you with pursuing that relationship? I think that's kind of the question every single person's asking out there.
Yeah.
Or it might
Or they
not
make
be.
a list. I want this person and I want this person.
Okay, so that's maybe exactly what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
Instead of you as the single person giving God your list of what you want,
Yeah.
what is God's list about you?
Mm.
What should you be for that person, prospective person?
Okay, so what I can share, I think from my understanding, is that there's obviously there's a difference between male and female. So I think the first thing I would say is be someone that you do the basics of just what does God call you as being part of the church. So that means literally to make disciples. What does that mean? Help people to follow Jesus, to engage the lost. Literally, that is the basic thing of being a Christian. To start there. Why I'm saying that is, I've realized that if you do not obey that what God has said, just in the small basic things, it's almost like something like lordship doesn't exist in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that basic things, lordship won't exist in your marriage. So you'll still make decisions based on what you think is the best decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why I think it's easy for people to have sex before marriage because they're the captain of the ship. So I would start there. Be that person. Well, I would say that. Obey God. Follow Him. Let Him be your first love. Let Him be the one that defines you as a person. Because what's going to happen is you're going to see people differently.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see them anymore in a way of, oh, I need this and I need this and I need this, because God has already given it. There are non-negotiables, I would say, if you pursue someone. Like, I think there's obviously a culture of honor. There's a space of, do they believe in God? Do they, or if they're not believing in God, is there still something worth pursuing? Maybe God will later do something. I know people do that, but if it becomes a project, I wouldn't say that's healthy to make a person a project. You shouldn't marry someone because you want to get them saved. I don't know. People might say different things.
Missional marriages.
Yeah. Is that a thing?
Missionary
But-
dating. It's
yeah.
a great ministry.
Yeah. So obviously, So I think I haven't really deeply thought about it. What type of person you need to be. I only know if you build your house on the rock, guess what? When time ends, you are going to be with Jesus, because that's what He's saying. It's very interesting when you read that scripture. I think it's in what is it, Matthew 7, or is it Mark 7?
Matthew 7.
Matthew 7, about the house. And Jesus saying, those who do what I say, those who hear and do what I say, will be like a wise man that builds his house on a rock. And we all know, well, if you don't know the story, there's a wise man, he builds his house on a rock. There's a foolish man, he builds a house on sand. The difference between the two is the one heard and did what Jesus says. The other one heard, but he didn't do what Jesus said. Now, I did some digging. When you look at the scripture, Jesus speaking about a storm. That storm reference to the end of time, when there's judgment. When judgment comes upon all human beings, guess what? Those who build their house on the rock, those houses will stand. Metaphorically, we can look at it. Yes, storms of life, you know. But I believe God gave us wisdom to take on life the way that He meant it. Yeah. So I think for me, if you just start there, God will already do stuff in your life where you know how to love someone, how to respect them, how to bring value into their life, how to speak life into them. Because that's something that I didn't learn how to do. You know, that's the toughest thing at the moment, is I never learned how to honor people. Like I don't have that example. But those things happen when you follow Jesus. It's fruit.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I think there's that is the start. Like, it's easy to think about, I need to be this and that and this, but first start with Jesus. Jesus said, it is finished, which means you take your sin and you repent and you give it to Him. Yeah.
I think that's good. I think the conversation can keep on going, and we can all ponder on our own lives. What is it what's there that shouldn't be there? How can I improve? Obviously, every one of us, we want to improve. The human race is built upon the idea that progress is good. So we all want to progress. We all want to be better. We all want to, we can't be the same as last year. That's why we have things like New Year's resolutions, because we don't want to stay where we were. You go to your 10-year reunion or 20-year reunion, and you want to be better. You want to be, people must like who you are. You want to stand out. I don't know, because there's this craving for progress. And so many of us, you might be listening and you say, well, I don't have somebody yet. I want to get married, but I'm not yet. You might be young and studying, or might be in school. You might be older and you're already working. You already have your own life. There's a bunch of other things that comes in to play when that's the case. But it's a good question to ponder. What do I need to be for that next person? Remember, you might be the answer to somebody else's prayer. And if we all are praying for surface things like, I want a girl with brown hair and blue eyes or whatever, yeah, sure, but there's other things that you can be praying for that will last. That's bigger. And are you willing to be the answer to somebody else's prayer? What are you doing now that is gonna jeopardize that? If you're a person that sleeps around, no one prays for that. No one says, Lord, give me somebody that's sleeping around, because then they'll be really good at sex. No one's praying that prayer. I don't know. Maybe. There's something beautiful that happens to the individual when you start becoming what God has wanted you to be in the first place, and you can be the answered prayer to somebody else. And in our search for the one, and in our search for this person that's on the horizon, I think God has lots in store. And so that's a conversation.
There is something that I have realized that people don't necessarily mention anymore. But things like when you feel infatuated, you feel, what it means is you feel that butterflies. You feel that, oh, this person is special. If you're a man, to pursue, like the art of pursuing is almost like, has changed in a way, I think. But people sometimes just don't pursue. And then sometimes what happens is a guy pursues, but the girl is too afraid or too scared or not willing to take a risk. And that's the beauty of relationships. It's always going to be a risk, which means just do it. Go for it. Check it out. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. And that is really okay. It is okay if things don't work out. It's not the end. We put relationships on the altar usually, or not on the altar. We tend to put it on the throne and be like, oh, this thing can't end. This thing can't end. Or this, it must be like this, or it must be. God is on the throne, and if something happens, like it doesn't work out, that is okay. But when you get married, that's different. A covenant is much more. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that is good advice. Men, go, pursue. Don't be passive. Initiate. Those are big words. Pursuing, initiating. It's something that comes naturally for a man to do before. So go and pursue and initiate. But it's also something that happens to husbands and men that have been married for very long. Too many husbands are being passive. They're sitting in some armchair kicked over, and the rest of everyone else around them is supposed to bring them coffee, and you've become so passive in your role as the leader. You're called to be a leader. A man is called to be a leader, not a man is called to be the only leader or to be oppressive, or none of that's true. But in the DNA of the man is this running towards and taking conquering. Remember that book, Wild at Heart? Now I forget his name.
John
Aldridge. Aldridge, yeah. Amazing book, and the reason why the book was so amazing, one, he's a great writer, but also he's tapping into the concept of something that every man knows. Every man knows that you are wild at heart. You are wild at being a man. Being a man is different. But the commentary for women in this moment is big, because, okay, but what is she supposed to be doing? What is she... Because the men have left the room. Where are all of the men? Where are they? Are they busy hunting?
Yeah.
Some of those little gazelles feel like there's no man hunting me anymore. There's no one. Where are the men out in the field with rifles taking down the gazelles that they want? What are the women supposed to do? And there's great commentary. Not going to get into too much of it today, but I think the best thing is be desperately available. And not be desperate. No. Be desperately available. Are you out there? Are you full dinger? Are you full of nonsense? Are you full of, how high are your expectations? How ridiculous are your, are you measuring? Who's giving you the measuring stick? And on what are you measuring what you're looking for? Because there are men and they are willing. And there are girls, and they are willing. And let these people find one another. I mean, my word, go find one another. Honestly, it's. I sometimes, when I hear some of the girls having conversations about, there's just no men that are looking for them. On the one hand, I'm like, that is so sad, and on the other hand, I'm like, hey, men, listen, let's go. Guys, there are girls waiting for you. And I think the best thing for you to be is to be in tandem with Jesus. I think when I say that word, I think of the physical bike that you call the tandem bike. And you're sitting there and who's in front and who's in the back. Who's guiding? Is Jesus guiding who you are? Your identity. Is your identity fixed in Him? Does He tell you who you're supposed to be? Yeah. All right. Yeah, but thank you for the conversation. So much more we can say about this.
Yeah.
So much where we can delve into. I think the main takeaways is that before you focus on who you want, focus on who you are and what is it that God wants from you. Not because that's going to give you the keys to the kingdom per se, but you definitely will be that person somebody else is praying for. And I think that's just wise. That's just wise. It doesn't keep us safe from sin. No, it doesn't keep us. But think wisely about the future. Do now what you think will be good for then, and when all else fails, listen to what God's voice says in this regard. Great. Join us again for some more of these conversations and thinking about God and relationships and the significant other. And have comment, give us some feedback. Tell us your story. Stories are always good. Stories are the best ways to frame most of our conversations anyway. And that's why our stories are the only ways that we can kind of frame what we're thinking about and see the world through a different lens. We'll see you next time. Cheers.